This channel is supported by Truefire.
Well, what is this all about then? It's the Truefire Summer Music Festival. What I'm going to tell you about, you can get 1 month of all access for just $1. The all access, you can dip in and out of every single course on Truefire, so that's a really great way to get some awesome courses down you.
I wouldn't say the internet is particularly an easy place to come across consensus all that often. But if there was one thing in the guitar world that I feel like you could pretty reliably find people saying, is that the Gibson Norlin era, some of the darkest days within Gibson's history, like some of the worst guitars that Gibson made. And I kind of always, well, I've never really known enough to know what to believe about any of that, but this is a Norlin era Les Paul. Now let's get into what's wrong with the guitar and what's right with the guitar. But I think quite a lot of what I expected about this guitar has turned out to be quite wrong. Yeah, that Joe Bonamassa recommends for moving around is quite a sturdy but plastic case. Anyway, so the story with this guitar belongs to Francisco, I don't know, the C maybe is silent. But anyway, good buddy, amazing player. I'm going to show you some of his nylon playing on a guitar that he made. Actually, a very talented guy, not just a great player. It's not even his job playing. He's an architect.
Is that beautiful? What?
So, some details. Around the time that this was built, you could only find the custom with full-size humbuckers, the gold top with P90s, and the deluxe with mini humbuckers. There was no such thing as a standard. A big music store called Strings and Things asked Gibson to make a Sunburst with full-sized humbuckers, similar to the ones used by Jimmy Page, and this was the result. So I think this is like between 72 and 74, 1972, 1974. So like the start of the Norlin era, really, right? We could say that this was the first attempt from Gibson to reissue the standard Les Paul of the late 50s, but of course with lots of inaccuracies. So some of those inaccuracies he's pointed out here. So it's a 3-piece laminated mahogany neck, but at least at this era of Norlin, it is still mahogany. This is aged in an incredibly pretty way. There's like loads and loads of finish missing. There's probably a mark where it was hit by a cymbal, probably. It's got a volute here, which is probably an answer to headstocks breaking, right? You'd assume that that was the reason that they decided that was an idea. There must have been some thinking behind it. So a 3-piece mahogany neck. I don't know where the pieces are. And then some lovely wear on this neck, which, because it's been played so much, is just lovely and smooth still. Here, probably a cymbal or something like that it hit at some point. But just like, also I did notice on the 53 gold top of Ed's that this was like the plastic they were using at the time, which interesting. Headstock break. There's the volute, which I think Alex Lifeson, they did a version of his and they put that volute in the wrong place apparently. Serial has been got rid of. Anyway, so that's that. Then the tops were kind of multiple maple pieces, but you can see that some of the joins are off center. Now I did see one at the local Project Music. So you got, that was a money saving exercise, I think, right? So in terms of attractiveness, that's not amazing. And then the other thing going on is that you've got what's called a pancake body, I think. So you've got 1-piece mahogany here, and then you've got a sandwich of maple in the middle, and then another piece of mahogany. So it's kind of interesting from that point of view. So no figuring really on the top, and you can see there's 1, 2 piece at least. I think there might be a third join somewhere over there maybe. Yeah, there, you can see. So a 3-piece maple top. Fretboard looks nice and old, not on original frets. Non-original nut by the look of it. Transitional logo here. Then here, that looks kind of wrong compared to a real-ish Les Paul. Everything else about it feels very much like a Les Paul. And I think it actually sustains incredibly well and sounds really good as well. I've not weighed this one yet. I shall weigh it. But they can be identified by the transitional truss rod cover, which changed by 1976, where the necks also changed from mahogany to maple. So that's, I think, where people start to really think, well, you've changed the Les Paul formula so much, because these are all right. I think this is a great guitar. The originals came with T-top pickups, I believe, but the previous owner had put Tim Shaw pickups in it. This one has a repaired headstock, although you probably couldn't tell except, I guess, that black overspray. The guy that refretted this guitar was the head of the master luthiers at Taylor Guitars in the late 80s to late 90s, Lito Benito, a Chilean fellow who, at his return to Chile, started a new company which had to close its doors a few years later. So, again, right, I'm not necessarily a Les Paul aficionado, of course, and accepting that there are parts of this guitar which do deviate from the original Les Paul formula, is this not closer to a Les Paul than many, you know, getting it right than a lot of the more standard stuff that we know of now. So it's got these Tim Shaw pickups in it. I don't think it would be Indian rosewood, Brazilian rosewood at this point, right? And yeah, I think the pickups in this particularly. And one other thing that we kind of discovered with this one, the radius is kind of closer to like 9.5, like just under 10.
Oh, it looks close as well. I'm not so sure why.
It's probably 10 as well, isn't it?
May have been. Yeah.
Than it is to 12, which is another thing which it kind of has in common with some of the guitars that came before this like more modern era of Gibson. I think it's a real interesting thing. At the time, I did find also a post about the level of like guitars that were being made, like between the 50s and 60s. It was something like 13,000 Les Pauls were made. In the first year of Norlin, it was something like 18,000. So it's like an incredible level of scale that it would be impossible to maintain amazing levels of quality at, I think, is the main point. You're just making guitars on a whole different scale. But there are some, like this one is, I think, a really nice Les Paul to play. And the fact that it's Norlin era is absolutely not off-putting to me at all now, having played it, because it's like, well, this is an amazing Les Paul. A little, maybe slightly heavy, but again, like the range of weights for the original burst, apparently like £9 to, or £8 to £10, like that is pretty normal as well. And again, bearing in mind that at the time, just a Norlin era Les Paul was just a Les Paul. So there's great players at the time playing them. I'll flash them up, but let me know if you ever tried a Norlin era or you bought a Norlin era. And I think, to me, this guitar has more vibe to it than something like a Murphy Lab, and feels, to me, much more like an old guitar than, you know, the Murphy Lab of my buddies that I've played. It's just oozing that kind of vintage character, if that's what you're looking for. And again, a headstock break on it, non-original pickups, but the essence of the guitar, also this is another thing, they did binding all the way, so you don't have that little gap that you get on a normal Les Paul. I don't know, I was really impressed by this, and you think, like, if that's what Norlin era Les Pauls could be like, I think it's absolutely not a disappointment at all. It's a fantastic guitar. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you tried Norlin era stuff, was there any of it that you liked, any of it that you hated? what were your thoughts on it? Cheers for stopping by. I think also this was at a time, Francisco was telling me, where South America and America did not have the best relationship, so getting a guitar like this into that area was not that easy. But yeah, beautiful instrument.